Hello, everyone. A little early, maybe a minute early. How is everybody doing this evening? I'm anticipating that probably be a few more viewers than usual, probably because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. And maybe a lot of people I know, some people have lost their jobs because of everything that's gone on in 2020. But I think most people have off tomorrow. So maybe we'll have a couple more viewers than usual tonight. If not, that's fine too. The program must go on. I'm doing good. It was a beautiful day here in Clearwater Beach, Florida. A lot of people out on the beach today. A lot of people in the water. The water was very, very still. Not a lot of wind going on. And so we just had some really, really beautiful days. I hope it's been beautiful where you are. Okay, it is 9 o'clock, so let's get this started. This is Unfound Live for November 25th, 2020. I hope everybody is doing great. Thank you for making time on this Wednesday night or even evening, or maybe I know sometimes we have some viewers in Australia and Hong Kong, so it's already Thursday there. Of course, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving there. But so wherever you are, I appreciate you making time for the live show. And if you are watching this recorded somewhere down the road, then I welcome you as well. I, of course, am Ed Densel, the host of the Missing Persons program, Unfound, right there. And if this is your first time to the live show, it's a little bit different than the episodes. Of course, the episodes are very serious, fact-based programs because we take the material that we cover, these missing people and their families, we take it all very seriously. Whereas here on Wednesday nights, a little more laid back. Most of the time we are talking, or I am talking, we are having conversations back and forth about true crime issues, news, things like that. But it's not unusual for us to go off into music and food and all sorts of other things. However, we stay away from religion and politics for good reason. But let's see who is in here. Karen is first. Suzanne, Charlotte, Angela, a little bit. Jasmine, Eileen, Concha, Kristen, Gail. Hello, Gail. She says, I've so missed watching this live. Finally, a day off. Well, you got to get your boss to change your schedule, Gail. That's what has to be done, like right quick. Kathy, hello, Kathy. And Ruth. So, got quite a few questions. I always feel very fortunate to come to the live show with already some questions from viewers, from people who've already submitted questions. Mostly, I usually get those from the discussion group. And so I have some interesting questions and some news items. But as you know, if you are a frequent viewer of this program, that it can go for quite a while. We usually go at least an hour and a half. Maybe when he started, it was like an hour long, and it's gotten almost to like 2 hours long. So there we go. Gail says amen to that. Hello, Michelle. Sharon. Yeah, Thanksgiving tomorrow. Ann, Heather, Suzanne, good to see all of you. I'm hoping that Cherie is going to be in here. I haven't talked to her. I hope she will be moderating. Maybe she's somewhere. Maybe she just hasn't tuned in yet. That's always possible. But what's going on with me? No disc golf this past weekend as far as official tournaments. But on Sunday, I played with the club over at Taylor Park, which is over in that direction, about 10 to 12 minutes. And I ended up becoming the number one player in the club due to the scores that I've been shooting over there recently during the club play. and particularly during this month of November. So nobody was more surprised than I was on Sunday after everybody was done and the club got back together after everybody had completed their rounds, that I was given what they call the number one bag tag. And what that is that each player, depending on their score, is given number one. So number one would be the best. And I think there are over 100 bag tags out there, and they are bag tags. There's little metal things that you can clip on your bag to show you what number you are, how good you are in the club. And I got number one after Sunday's play. Nobody was more surprised than I was. However, I have to admit I've been playing fairly well over there on Sunday mornings. So, but it was a real shock. And I have to be one of the oldest people to ever, probably in that club, to ever have the number one bag tag, being that I'm 50 years old. So did not expect it. Will relish it. Will not be able to play the next couple weekends because I'm playing in official tournaments outside of town. But that's the thing. Once you get the number one bag tag, then everybody's gunning for you that they want to get the number one bag tag. So that's something that I will have to deal with in 2021, but that's a good problem to have. If you the bag tag that I had before Sunday was number 13. So even 13 out of 100 sounds pretty good. But never could I expected to get number one. So that was just crazy. But I have been playing well. I just have. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Heather. Betty, hello, Ed. How are you? I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic, Betty. Thanks for asking. But and Eileen, thank you. But this weekend I'll be leaving on Friday morning. So the episode on Friday is going to be coming out very early. So probably expect it to be posted in the group, on the page, and elsewhere. I'm going to say around 9 a.m. Eastern time, because I will be getting on the road and I'm driving to DeBerry, Florida. And I know we have a viewer on the live show sometimes. Her name is Mandy from DeBerry. And I'm playing in a tournament over there this weekend, but I've never played the courses over there. So I'm going to leave here around 9 a.m. after I post the episode, and I'm going to drive over there, probably get there, have to get through Tampa traffic, have to get through Orlando traffic, and probably going to be 2.5 hours, maybe get there around noon, and then play those courses on the afternoon on Friday, to then play one round on Saturday and one round on Sunday. Going to have a lot of free time over there. So I anticipate that I'll be teeing off between 9 and 10 in the morning on Saturday, which means I'll be done by 1. And so I've all Monday afternoon or Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and then to then get up, play another round, and then drive all the way back here to do the think tank at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday evening, which I don't anticipate that being delayed at all. So that will be my weekend starting on Friday morning. Really looking forward to it. I've heard good things about these courses over there, that area. So I'll be checking it out for the first time. While I'm over there, being that I am going to be having some time on my hands, I will, of course, be taking all of, I don't know if I'll be taking the microphone or anything, but I will be taking both of my laptops, my tripod. So I think I'm actually going to be doing an interview while I'm over there. Don't want to jinx it, but doing an interview that will play in a couple weeks. And maybe I'll be able to crank out another Unfound Now while I'm out over there. And probably at least one more map analysis of an older disappearance going back to maybe 2017 or something like that. So I'm going to be doing work over there because I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands, because once again, it's only 2 rounds and of course it's too far to drive back and forth. So I'm staying at a hotel over there. So that's what's going to be going on with me this weekend. and I think it's supposed to be really nice, so no rain or anything like that. Tomorrow, I'm going over to my brother Brian's for... Hello, Blaze. How are you? Tomorrow I'm going over to my brother's for Thanksgiving. His wife will be doing the cooking. I don't know who else will be there. Maybe at least one of her daughters will be there. Maybe some other people. I'm just not sure right now. I think we're supposed to eat like around 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'll probably get over there well before that and just have a good time. Of course, there'll be football on, even though I haven't really been watching it. But the Steelers were supposed to play tomorrow night. That's been changed till Sunday due to COVID stuff. So, but that's what I'll be doing tomorrow, along with tomorrow. There will be a video accompanying this Friday's episode. So I will be filming that tomorrow at some point, either before I go over or when I come home tomorrow night. And that will be posted sometime tomorrow night, once again, in conjunction with this Friday's episode, because I certainly have to diagram some locations that I think will be good for all of you to see. I think it's very important to understand this disappearance that we're covering on Friday. Of course, I'll be talking about that near the end of this live show. So that's going on. Got a couple new tires on the car. The back tires on my car were kind of worn out. One of them was slowly losing air, and I think it turned out to me, just because the tire was worn out, was starting to crack a little bit. And I think that's the reason it was leaking air very, very slowly. So I had to get a couple tires for it. But otherwise, this Hyundai Sonata that I've had... What year did I get that? 2017. So I've had it like 3 years and some months. It's been a fantastic car. No problems with it at all. Zero. It's just crazy. Just crazy, crazy, crazy. I got it used. It's a 2016 Sonata with, I think I got it, had 37,000 miles on it. It now has like 73,000 miles on it. And which is amazing, because I really don't drive that much, but I've driven it back and forth several times to Pennsylvania, and one time to Amarillo, Texas too. And it's been a fantastic car. Fantastic. Not the sexiest car, but it's a little bit of a geek mobile, but it's been really good. But I do admit that I've been thinking about, well, maybe I do. I want to get a newer car, not a new car, but something newer, some different kind. I've been throwing that around, and that'll continue to probably be a thought of mine into 2021. Michelle says, woohoo, I'm from Amarillo, Texas. Been there, Michelle. July of 2019, I was there. It's a long drive from Clearwater, Florida to Amarillo, but I did it. And then drove the whole way back. But it was a good time being there, meeting many unfound listeners there, something that was arranged by a local. Sherman arranged that. And then I got together with Tom Brown's mother. We went to over to Canadian Texas. She showed me a lot of those locations. Seems like yesterday, but it's like a year and a half ago now. Crazy. So those are some of the things that are going on with me. I guess one more thing, I got to talk to one of my longtime friends today, a woman that I worked with at Star Trek for 4.5 years when I was there. So we've known each other like 20 years now. It doesn't seem possible, but I got to talk to her for about an hour and a half. It's just so funny. We laugh about so much stuff. She's like a sister to me, really. And we just laughed about so many things. She's still in Las Vegas, and just had a great, funny just conversation. Things we talk about. Just could never say them on air, but she's really good. So that's what's been going on with me. Just been doing same things, reaching out to people. I've had some good new conversations about some disappearances that I think that we'll be covering probably in the beginning of the new year. Just so you know, of course, we'll have a couple episodes coming out, but the last Friday of 2020 this year in December, last Friday of December, which is coincidentally Christmas. On Christmas, I will be releasing the next update episode. Of course, lots to talk about. So you can be looking for that. I do one every 4 months. So we do one in December, and then the next one will come out the last Friday of April. And then the next one will come out the last Friday of August, which is when the last one was just 4 months ago, the last Friday of August, right there, right before Labor Day. So we do that 3 times a year. I think that all of you enjoy those update episodes just to get filled in on what's been going on in some cases and hear that news. Let's get right into the program. I still don't see Cherie. She's out there somewhere, but I do know she's told me that all of her kids are in town for Thanksgiving. She's very fortunate to have. She has 3 kids, and they're all in town to see her. The first time she said that they've been all together in a while, so she has other things to do. Just have to keep an eagle eye out, make sure no trolls get in. But let's go to some of the items that I always seem to cover on the live show. And the first thing is the poll. This past Friday, we covered the disappearance of Gayla Schaper from Moscow, Idaho. She disappeared in 1979 from there. A friend of the program, a blogger that I respect quite a bit, Anthony from crimeblogger1983.blogspot.com, was on. I thought he did a great interview. That was his 4th time on the program, and he always does a very good job. Always enjoy talking to him. I like how he thinks about. He's very critical thinker, which is something that I always always respect. But in the group, as you most of you now know, but I'll state it anyway, what we do if you're watching this for the first time, what I do on the Saturday morning after an episode comes out, I post a poll in the discussion group on Facebook. And I try to make it at least a little difficult. Sometimes it's hard to do that. But just trying to get an idea of what people are thinking about the disappearance that came out the day before. They've listened to it. What do they think happened? And the poll questions can, vary. And in Gayla Schaper's, I asked, who do you think is responsible for the disappearance of Gayla? And it was either the Hagedorns, who owned the property where her horses were. And it's significant also because 14 years later, William Hagedorn shot and killed his girlfriend, Joanne. Noteworthy. I also asked, is it a possibility? Another choice was, did her husband, Ken, cause it? And then third was this just some random event? Because I don't think anybody really believes she walked off. So those were the 3 choices: the Hagedorns, Ken, or somebody else. And it was overwhelmingly that the pick, at least in the discussion group, was that William and or Larry Hagedorn had something to do with Gayla's disappearance. And you should know, if you've gone to Anthony's blog, which I linked to in the group on the page and elsewhere, that is the conclusion he came to as well. If you go and read the blog that he did on Gayla, he covers the facts, and then at the end of every presenting news articles, etc., then he gives his opinion on what happened. That's the conclusion that he came to. I will tell you, though, in the group, or in the think tank, once again, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. If you would like to be in the think tank, be a member. You have to become a premium member, though. We came to a different conclusion, and even myself, in writing the blog for Patreon, that if you are a Patreon member at even just the $2 a month level, you get to read the blogs that I write every week regarding the disappearance for that week. And the blogs are always at least 3,000 words long, so I think you're getting your money's worth. So over the course of a month, for $2 a month, you get 12,000 words of me writing about the disappearances that Unfound covers. And I do really try to put some thought into it. I start writing those on Friday, and I try to write like 1,000 words a day, 1,000 on Friday, 1,000 on Saturday, 1,000 on Sunday, or more if needed. And then post it's usually sometime on Sunday evening. But if things get in the way, disc golf tournament or whatever, maybe it won't come out till Monday. But in the think tank and myself, a majority of us, not everybody, but a majority of us came to the conclusion that actually her husband did do something to Gayla. And for me, I'll only speak for myself. But if you were to read the blog, the reason that I came to that conclusion were two reasons. One, I was a little confused that if the Hagedorns killed Gayla in 1979, why was it then 14 years later, if they are, or one of them is an experienced killer of killing a woman and making her disappear and successfully pulling that off for 14 years. Well, now it's, of course, 41 years. But at that time in 1993, it was confusing to me why in 79 they successfully, if we're to believe that, killed Gayla. But in 1993, as soon as William shot Joanne, they called 911. It's just a little weird to me. They had already successfully gotten, if they did, successfully gotten rid of one woman. And this was in their house. William pulled the trigger. I mean, they had all of the elements to maybe cause Joanne at least attempt to get away with it, but they did not attempt it at all. As soon as she was shot, at least hear Anthony and his coverage of it, they called 911 right away. It just seems a little weird to me. That is the actions, to me, of people who have never killed anybody before and feeling regret about it in 1993, even though he did go to jail and he's still in jail. The other point that was confusing to me is, once again, this is from, I'm not sure other people would realize this, but I surely do realize it, is that family members never forget what their missing loved one was wearing the last time they saw him. Just know. Just, it's, granted, some of them aren't the last people to see them, so you have to pick your circumstances, but they remember what their missing daughter or son was wearing the last time they saw him or her. The Ken was not sure when those clothes were found on the Hagedorn's property, especially shoes. Maybe a shirt, okay. But with shoes, all you have to say is, yep, that's Gayla's size. And I even brought up in the think tank that, I'm a single guy. I've had some girlfriends, not a lot of girlfriends, but some girlfriends, and they're all unique in their own way. And I'm telling you, if you showed me a shoe of one of my ex-girlfriends, I could probably tell you whose shoe that is. Once again, on the style, the size, etc. The Ken wasn't totally unsure. He wasn't totally sure that he was somewhere in between. Just seemed a little strange to me as well, that he couldn't remember exactly what she was wearing when he dropped her off in that pasture. And then I start thinking about this, did he not tell the police that? Should that not be on the police report? Just some, and I think the only reason that people have not bought into Ken is because his story has been consistent for the last 41 years, which in my mind, I don't know, it's something, but surely doesn't, totally push me away from him. So that's the reasoning. Of course, I wrote it much better than I just said it, but that's the way I came to the conclusion that most likely Ken was involved. Why do I think there's a difference between the poll and the poll and the discussion group in the think tank? It's hard to say. This happens more often than you would think, but just perceptions, just perceptions. That's all I really can think, because it's a stark difference. The discussion group was like 80% the Hagedorns, and the think tank was 80% Ken. Don't know. But I think that all of you might find that interesting. Of course, many of you are not in the think tank, but I think it's interesting for you to all know that how a lot of times what you may see in the group for the poll is not the conclusion that the think tank comes to. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. But it is interesting how many times the group and the think tank disagree. Melinda says, I wish you'd enable and comments on your channel so we can all talk about the videos. The reason we don't do that, Melinda, is because YouTube just has too many trolls. Too much to manage. We just don't have the man or woman power to control all of that. Just too many people can just get on there and just post anything at any time. There's no safeguards. There's, unless myself or one of my assistants is overseeing it, who knows where those discussions can go. And we just don't, all of my assistants are volunteers. They have their own jobs and everything else. So we just have to pick our places. I should also say this. Most of the time, even though, Melinda, you may not realize this, and that's fine, but I realize this. The reason that many channels keep their comments open is all because it drives up views. And from views, they get advertising, etc. That's the only reason. And they don't care what people put in the comment section. They don't care if it goes off on the rails where everybody, starts calling each other Hitler and everything else. They don't care, because they know every time the person comes back to that channel to watch that, the video counts go up. And that's all they care about. I don't care about that. I care about it being a very clean page. I care about it being a PG rated page. I care about keeping trolls and people like that away. So that's what we have to do. Could that change down the road? Maybe, but I will not say it's going to be anytime soon. But that is the reasoning for it, and that will continue to be the reasoning. Eileen, I need to free up more time for the think tank. Eileen, would love to have you. Love to have you. Kathy thanks, says the think tank is well worth the time. Thank you, Kathy. All right, so the Schaper poll. In the discussion group, majority of people think the Hagedorn's responsible. In the think tank, majority think Ken is responsible. All right, first, Blaze says they can get very ugly. Don't I know it, Blaze? And that's why we keep discussions to the Facebook group pretty much exclusively, where we can see everybody that's on there. And then if, as many of you know, we sometimes have to shut down certain comments on certain topics and kick people out. And it's just a lot easier to manage there, in contrast to YouTube. It just is. All right, first question of the night. And this was a question that was posted when maybe this past weekend, right in the discussion group, and it got some responses. And so I thought, and I even posted, I'll answer that on Wednesday night. So here we are. Alex had posted, why do I say where to find the podcast on the podcast? So as you know, right before the interview starts, I said where you can find Unfound, and I list all these places. Why do you do that? I guess the thinking is, well, if a person is already listening to the podcast, then he or she already knows where to find the podcast. And that's not really the way I think about it. Really, I don't know. Unfound has thousands and thousands of listeners. Not one of the most popular true crime programs or podcasts. I don't care about that. But it's well enough known that I know people are coming to it for the first time every day. And I don't know where they're coming from. I'm happy that they're just listening. Okay. But they may find Unfound by doing a Google search. They may find it by coming across the website, theunfoundpodcast.com. They may be on YouTube and come across one of the videos that my assistant Natasha makes, takes the audio, puts it with pictures, puts the video up there. I don't know how people first come across the program. That's the number one point. The more important point is, just because they encounter the program for the first time, let's say on YouTube, does not mean that is the most convenient way for that person to partake in the program. I know a lot of people enjoy using YouTube to listen to the program, even though YouTube is a video platform. But for some people, that's not the most convenient thing for them, especially since on a lot of phones, the only way you can watch on YouTube is if you actually have the app open. Is if you want to go to some other app, YouTube stops playing. So that is why I list all of the different places that Unfound can be found, because it could be somebody for the first time encounters on YouTube and they're like, well, this is a little inconvenient, but I don't know where else I can find the program. And then all of a sudden that person will hear me say, you can find it on iTunes, you can find it on Spotify, you can find it on Facebook, you can find it at theunfoundpodcast.com. And then they can start going through, well, which one is most convenient for me? Do I have Podomatic application? Do I have the iTunes application? Am I a subscriber to Spotify, etc.? And then they can start to make a good, well-informed decision about what's maybe the best way to listen to the program. Now, in the end, it might still be YouTube. But for many other people, it might be Podomatic. So I want to make this program as easy to listen to as possible. So I want to make sure everybody realizes there are a lot of different choices out there. In addition, just because somebody is listening to the podcast on Podomatic for a few months does not mean that they might not want to switch to something else for whatever reason. It may be that, well, I have the Spotify subscription like I do. I have a Spotify subscription. And it may be, well, you know what? Maybe I should get more money out of it and actually listen to the podcast, being that I'm paying for Spotify anyway. And so they'll switch from Podomatic to Spotify, just as another example. So these are some of the reasons that I can think of just off the top of my head why every week I tell people where the program can be found, because I never want to take for granted that anybody knows where to find the program just because they stumbled across it once. And that's, I have to tell you, I think these days, we don't do a lot of advertising, but being that you know, in that section of the podcast, I talk about Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and everything else. If at this point people don't know about the program, probably they're just going to come across it by accident. And I want to be prepared for those people, because I want to make sure that they don't just listen once and they don't, well, I'm listening to it on this weird platform, and then they get frustrated and go away. Whereas I tell them, well, you know what? Here's where else it can be found. And then they can start, thinking about, okay, now I get it. Now I can go here, I can go there. Then that would be a little more convenient for my computer usage, my phone usage, my tablet usage. So Alex, if you are watching or are going to watch this later, that is the reasoning. I know maybe on the surface, it seems, well, if people have found the program, why is he telling people where to find it? Well, I think that I just explained why that is. That's the reason. I can tell you from day one, that has been the reasoning. I'm not making that up recently. That's for day one. From day one that the program came out, I've always believed we got to give people options, and people need to know what those options are. Angela says, I came across by accident and listened to the podcast and kept recognizing your voice and enjoyed them. Then I had to figure out how to be on the Patreon. I still have people ask me, what's a podcast? Yeah, podcasting, even though it's been around for, 12, 13, 14 years. Yes, still a lot of people don't know what that is. And that's why, once another good reason why we're on YouTube. People may not know what a podcast is, but they surely know what YouTube is. So there you go. Let's go back up into the items section. Now, this is something that I forgot to mention last week, and I had to apologize to the listener yesterday or the day before. It was like I said, it was supposed to be on last week's agenda, and I just blew it. I just completely blew it. But I put it on this week's agenda, and I just want to tell you before I get into this that this is probably, from what I know of, anything that I know about disappearances or have heard about, this is probably one of the most impressive stories that I've gotten from a listener since I started Unfound. And I'm not saying he is, and I'm not going to mention his name, but I'm not saying he's just an Unfound listener. I'm sure he listens to a lot of other podcasts out there, true crime podcasts, but I know that he is a faithful listener of Unfound. So as far as Unfound, people who listen to Unfound, this is probably one of the most impressive stories that I've heard, and I'm glad that he alerted me to it, because it's been a big question mark in my mind for a while now. Before I get into that, I want to remind all of you, being that you're watching, please give this video a thumbs up. Please like this video as you are watching it. That helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Being that I was just talking about people finding the program, liking this video makes it easier to find for other people who are trying to find more true crime to listen to or watch. So please, on your device, before this video is over tonight, before the show is over, please like this video, give it the thumbs up. I would deeply appreciate that. But getting back to what I was saying, as all of you, I think, know, very early on in Unfound's existence, we covered the disappearance of Jason Jorkowski. He disappeared from Omaha, Nebraska on June 13th, 2001. It's still, I think, a very unique disappearance, even though we've covered almost 200 disappearances over the last 4+ years. It's really one of those disappearances where it seems like Jason could have gotten beamed up to a UFO or something, because his disappearance does not have a lot of the elements that we talk about so often in other disappearances. If we're talking about relationship issues, criminal issues, drug issues, shady friends issues, things like that. Jason's disappearance has none of those. But a companion to his disappearance, and in fact, I know that we talked about it when I had his mother, Kelly, on the program way back in 2016. We did talk about a disappearance that happened around the same time in Omaha, Nebraska in 2001. In fact, that disappearance happened on July 19th, 2001. So just over a month later. And the name of the young man who went missing, his name is Sam Sherman. And there's been a lot of talk. You can find it going back several years on Web Sleuths, elsewhere. I've even talked about it myself. Could these two disappearances be connected? Being that the last known address of Sam was very close to where Jason lived. Once again, around the same age, a month later, could there be something to this? And I know that several people have tried to find out information on Sam Sherman, quite unsuccessfully. There's just there was just been no information out there on him. No pictures, no police report. We have no idea who any of his family members are. We don't, it's just nothing. No details. All I think we knew was that he went for a job interview and never came back. That's about it. We just know that he's a white guy and he's a certain age, and that's about it. Well, if you could believe it, one of Unfound's listeners, and like I said, I know that this person probably listens to other programs, but still, this person tracked down Sam Sherman, found him, and he's alive. And in fact, Sam, I'm not, and I'll get into why it's been so difficult. He actually has a Facebook page. He's on Facebook to this day. And this listener who has convinced me, I don't believe I've talked to this listener before. I do not believe that There's nothing that's telling me that he's trying to pull one over on me. If he's doing it, he's doing a very good job of it, but it seems believable to me that he got interested in trying to figure out what happened to Sam, and just using very cleverly some of the search engines and databases that you can find online, he was able to track Sam down. And in telling me how he did it, the big issue, now that it's fairly clear, but I don't know how any of us could have known that at the time. The problem has been that Sherman is not Sam's last name. Sherman is actually his middle name, and I'm not going to give you his last name, but I know what it is. And I think, and in fact, this listener contacted Sam, and Sam got back to him. And this listener said, do you know that you're on NamUs? Do you know that you're considered a missing person? He had no idea. None. Zero. At least that's what he told this listener. He had no idea. Did not know. He said, I think the way it went was that, yes, he had left without telling anybody, but not long after that happened, not long after July 19th, he had contacted his family. Well, it seems like the police never got word that Sam had gotten back in touch with his family to say, yeah, I'm okay and everything. And so that's over 19 years ago. And it turns out that Sam Sherman, and once again, I know what his last name is, but I've not contacted him, and I'm not going to contact him. Has been living his life. I think I don't know. I know he's a child. I'm not sure he's married, but I've seen his Facebook page. I know he has a woman in his life. He has a child. He's a father, and everything seems to be just fine with him. So I was stunned. But it's just, once again, I think it's one of those things where this listener, to use a horrible cliche, just kind of started thinking out of the box. Why is it? Because I know even the times that I've maybe put in a little time regarding Sam Sherman, the big problem has always been the big issue has been you can't find any Sam Sherman. Couldn't find one who was living in Omaha, Nebraska at that time, at that age. So, and this listener was able to put it together that maybe Sherman wasn't his last name, maybe that's his middle name. And once he started thinking in those terms, he was able to find him. So, that's something. And I guess what it also shows is that Sam's disappearance is not connected to Jason's at all. But I think what it also shows is that if Sam Sherman could still be alive after 19 years of going missing on a day, it's very possible that Jason Jorkowski's still out there alive somewhere too. Very possible, given how unique his disappearance is. It's simply one of the most impressive stories that I've heard of a listener doing work on his own in his spare time and really solving, a big mystery. Really. Just really, really good stuff. And I love hearing about stuff like that. You know me. I love when listeners and the audience gets involved. And this is the kind of stuff that I mentioned. You don't have to be, an expert, flying all over the country, driving all over the country and everything. But sometimes just sitting down and thinking about things and knowing what other people have done and have failed, you can just figure out, maybe I do need to do this instead. And I think that's what this listener did. Unfortunately, this doesn't help us with Jason's case at all. I think a lot of people out there were hoping it would, but it doesn't seem that that is the situation. Suzanne says, wow, that's amazing. Charlotte says, that's something. Jasmine, that's awesome. A little bit says, how? Angela says, suspicious. Fishing says, going fishing Friday night. No jet skis and skiing messing it up. Okay, good job. Good job. All right, fishing. Ryan says, well, thank you for the update on Sam Sherman. I emailed you a bit about him in the past, Ed. Has anyone gotten in contact with the police with this new info? Well, I've told the listener that's what he needs to do. I'm hoping he's going to do that. That would be the responsible thing to do. Because I'm not the person. If I had found the information firsthand, that I would do that. I'm not, because I'm sure that, there will be at least a few questions asked of, if I were to do it, that start asking, well, how did this happen? And I wouldn't have those answers because I'm not the one that did the work. So I'm hoping that this listener takes it upon himself to get that done and clear that all up. And I think what also tells us is that we must believe that there are probably other disappearances that where the people are just living their lives, not even knowing that they're missing. They're also anonymous, and the names have never been taken off. I think that, given the situation here, that greatly, greatly, greatly increases the chances there are many cases on NamUs that are like that. Hello, Zebra. Hello, Jody. Suzanne says, Angela says, kudos to the listener. Suzanne says, mind-blowing. It is a little mind-blowing. I think it's, I will tell you that I've kind of had an epiphany with like that as well. This person, this listener, thinking, well, maybe that Sherman's not his last name. What if it's his middle name? I know for me, I've started to think a little bit differently about, and this really started with Esther Westenbarger's, the discovery of her car and her in it. It has certainly caused me to start thinking a different way about those disappearances where a person and his or her car go missing together. And it's been years, and neither the person nor the car has been found. I can tell you that her disappearance has greatly influenced me in reassessing, looking at those types of disappearances. Surely. So with Sam's, maybe we need to start thinking that way. When we hear about some of these, it could be that the data was input wrong, as it seems it was in Sam's case. So I know that I've even mentioned, I think, a disappearance here locally, Robert Helfrey, who he's a missing veteran right here in the Clearwater Beach area, who was out with friends, a few drinks, was going to go home, called a friend of his to meet him at home. Friend went over there. Robert never showed up. He and his car are still missing, and it's been like 15 years. And so I know more and more I've started to think about the possibility that maybe he fell asleep at the wheel or drinking and driving or something and went into one of the many canals and lakes here in Pinellas County on the way home. So that's a very distinct possibility. But that's, I guess that's why I love hearing a story about something like this. Somebody just thinking about something in a different way, because I think that's what's going to solve quite a few of these disappearances, just thinking about them in a different way instead of automatically going to foul play, murder, kidnapping, etc. Is it possible that some of these really have nothing to do with that at all? I think a lot of people thought something happened to Sam Sherman that was a foul play. We now know that wasn't the situation. So, a real mind blower. I appreciate this listener letting me know, and I had to apologize. I told him I was going to talk about it last week, and I blew it. But I assured him, definitely talking about it tonight. And I just cannot give him enough credit. I cannot thank him enough. And I deeply appreciate him even letting me know that this happened so I could pass it along to all of you. Really, 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 really great job. Just crazy. Blaze says, that's why it's good to have a map and look at all bodies of water between point A and point B. Yeah. And even not even between point A and point B if it comes to Esther Westenbarger's disappearance, Blaze. But I get what you're saying. It's true. Angela, getting the name wrong was tied to whom? Probably the police, Angela. Probably the police. They're the ones that input the information. They're the ones that collect it. It wouldn't have been Sam that Sam didn't file a missing person report on himself. So it had to be somebody else's fault. And, in the end, I think it's the police who have to make sure that they got the information correct. Even though you'd think that a friend or family member would say, yeah, his name is Sam Sherman Jones, and that's not really his last name. You'd think they'd get that right. So I think the blame has to be somewhere else. What's most important is that Sam is alive, and that is great news. Let's move on. Let's take another question. Buck had asked me a very specific question about the disappearance of Bradley Brooks. Of course, that's a disappearance we covered a month ago, 5-6 weeks ago, in Corpus Christi, Texas. And, I really don't answer specific questions. Well, what can Brad's family do now and everything? I really don't like to cover too much of that publicly because some of those things may involve we don't want to tip anybody off. Let's just put it that way. So I like to keep most of recommendations, things behind the scenes, and just telling the people one-on-one over the phone and not airing it. But I can answer kind of the general question is, with these newer disappearances, when you get to older disappearances, 10 years old, 20 years old, I guess it depends, but you're really limited in what you can do. I'm not saying the choice is always zero. There's zero choices, but you really have to think a little harder about ways to kind of move the case forward, especially if a family is trying to do this on their own. For newer disappearances like Brad's, which is only a year and some months old, it's, of course, you have a lot of choices, but sometimes the best choice is just maybe sometimes to just wait a little bit. Because I even said regarding his disappearance and, of course, Angela Green's, which also happened in 2019, that I'm sure a year from now we will have more information. If the disappearance doesn't get solved in the meantime, if it doesn't get solved tomorrow or next week. But if it's still unsolved a year from now, I'm thinking we will probably know more information then than we do now. And that will be just because of the natural progression of things. I think that you can look at many of the disappearances that we've covered that are fairly old. And you can easily say 20 years later, we know more about the disappearance now than they did 1 year after the disappearance happened. Given that I just talked last Thursday with Dr. Grace Telesco about Robin Abrams, that's something that is certainly true. Where the family thought they knew a lot of things, of course, Tony Marquez, etc., a year later, if not even sooner than that. But then it took till like 2012 before they saw the entire big, huge story. 22 years. So this is sometimes just the way things happen. But just in general, I think that families have to keep their, now every disappearance is different. Of course, Angela Green's that happened in 2019 is much different from Bradley Brooks's, which happened in 2019. So each has its own things that people could be doing. But I think most importantly is just to keep your eyes and ears open. And to not take for granted that the police are keeping their eyes and ears open. I think that's most important, not to the point that you're getting conspiratorial, but in Bradley's case, for example, just need to keep maybe an eye on crime that happens in the Corpus Christi area, this area where he disappeared. Just see what kind of crimes have been committed in the area over the past year. And could any of those crimes kind of go along with Brad's disappearance? Just as an example. Now, of course, in Angela Green's disappearance, it's a lot different because most people think that her husband had something to do with her disappearance. So that would be different things to do. But the best thing I can say is keeping your eyes and ears open and not become desperate. And don't ride the emotional roller coaster of the up and downs and rumors and everything else. Easy to say, hard to do, but that's what you need to do. That's what I would suggest, especially to families that have been experiencing this, have just started having this in their life the last couple years. For older disappearances, you get out to 10 years, 20 years, then it's just something different. What you should be doing is totally different for a family than newer disappearances. So, Buck, if you're watching, I hope that answers the question. But he knows that I've spoken to Misty privately. I talked to her a couple weeks ago, Brad's sister, and I've tried calling Ashley. I tried calling her a couple days ago. She's not yet gotten back to me, which is fine. I'm sure we'll talk again soon. You'll remember for that disappearance, we had both Ashley, Brad's girlfriend, and Misty, his sister, on that episode. Zebra, thank you for the contribution. What Zebra is doing there, and now Eileen too. Wow, okay. Thank you. What they're doing is they're hitting the super chat button and contributing to Unfound. You must have, of course, a PayPal account or something like that connected to your YouTube account. But you can contribute to the program as you are watching this video. And I deeply appreciate Zebra and Eileen. You're very gracious, very thoughtful. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Zebra. But you can contribute to the program as well by hitting the super chat button, which I think is a a gray square. They've switched it. A gray square rectangle with a $sign in the middle. If you hit that, it'll ask you for a dollar amount, and you can contribute that dollar amount to Unfound and everything that we're doing here. So I deeply appreciate it, Zebra and Eileen. Thank you so much. Let's get back. So there's another question answered. Let's go back to this. Of course, since we're getting close to the end of the month, that means another newsletter is going to be coming out, which means I'm going to be very, very busy over the next week. Of course, we got Thanksgiving tomorrow, driving to DeBerry on Friday, got a tournament this weekend, probably doing an interview on Saturday, I'm thinking Saturday evening. And so somewhere in there, I'm going to have to try to figure out how to write a newsletter. The good news is I already know what I'm going to write about. So that's the good news. Now it's just the fact of finding the time to write it all out and make it come out on December 1st, which coincidentally is my father's birthday. In fact, I should go get him a card. Probably. Okay, so you can be looking for that. If you are on the newsletter list, you'll get it. If you're not on the newsletter list, you won't get it. If you'd like to be on the newsletter list, please contact me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com, and I will put you on the list. If you are wondering what's in the newsletter, a little bit of everything. Maybe I might do some updates. Maybe I might get on my soapbox and preach a little bit about something going on in the true crime community. Might talk about some things that are going on behind the scenes and Unfound. It's just hard to say. It's a little like this program, the live show. It's a little bit of a potpourri. And the newsletter is usually 4,000 to 4,500 words. And I think people enjoy it. We got several hundred people on the mailing list. So that's really cool. So be looking for that December 1st, which is next Tuesday. I haven't started writing it yet, but sometime between now and the end of business on Tuesday, December 1st, I got to get it done. Lou says, happy Thanksgiving, Ed. Lou, thanks. You too. I hope you're going to have a nice one. It's going to be nice for me because I don't have to cook. In fact, that's one of the questions. In fact, that's the question I'm going to take next. But Lou, thank you very much. Thank you for the well wishes. I think I'm going to do very well tomorrow. I've actually been trying to watch what I eat, and I've actually noticed some changes very quickly. But tomorrow I'm going to pig out. That's just the way it is. Let's go. Speaking of Thanksgiving, Diane in the group asked me if I was making chicken wings for Thanksgiving, and the answer is no. I will tell you that truthfully, though, I was thinking about making some chicken wings today, but to make chicken wings today means I had to take them out of the freezer yesterday, and I didn't take them out of the freezer yesterday, so I couldn't make them today. And being that I'm going to be on the road Friday, Saturday, Sunday means I won't be making them either. So the next time I'm going to be making chicken wings is the soonest is next week. But had I not been, I can answer that, Kylie. Good question, Kylie. Spectacular. Had I not been going anywhere, you should know, I just talked to my dad before I came on the air tonight. He's going over to his neighbors and her son is cooking for them. And the guy's like, I don't know if he's a professional chef, but he's a amateur professional chef. Takes it, really into grilling, all the stuff, stuff that I take no interest in. And he is going to be making Thanksgiving dinner for them. So I think my dad is very excited about that because my dad knows this guy's a very good cook. So my dad just has to go like across the street in his little community there for Thanksgiving. So he's going to be around people that he's friends with and everything. So that's good for him. Thank you, Blaze. But no, I would have, though, had I not been going anywhere tomorrow. If, for example, because sometimes on holidays, my brother will go to Oregon to see his children. He has a son and daughter who are in their 30s. And then his wife will just get together with her daughters and she'll go to their place. So I'm kind of without a place. Had that been the situation, I probably would have made chicken wings for myself. Probably. And I probably would have gone and gotten pumpkin pie and all sorts of things, but I won't have to do that. And it's not as weird as it sounds. You have to remember that I come from the world of entertainment. That's what I did for most of my years in Las Vegas. So many Thanksgivings and Christmases, I worked. When I worked at Star Trek The Experience, I think I worked every major holiday the entire time that I worked there. Really, because single guy, of course, families, my coworkers who are parents, are married, need to travel. They tried to get those days off. So a guy like myself, I don't mind working on holidays because I was out there and didn't have any family around anyway. So, and they would make Thanksgiving dinner for us there. So, I'm used to working on, maybe not since I lived in Florida the last 9 years, but just kind of getting that mentality that I'm used to working on Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving, 4th of July. You just get used to it. And it's fun. It's fine. But no wings tomorrow for Thanksgiving, Diane, although I did make wings this past weekend that went very well. Still experimenting with the sauce, though. Still experimenting. The wings, I'm continuing to cook them the same way, but I'm trying to do a variety of sauces, mixture of garlic and barbecue and Frank's hot sauce, really mixing things up. Angela, well, you're very kind. Thank you. Sam Sherman, Angela, that's fine. You got it wrong. That's no problem. Well, I appreciate that. I didn't get that done. That I just want to be clear. I'm not taking credit for figuring out where Sam Sherman is. I'm not taking credit. I'm just passing along information. I had nothing to do with it. Nothing. Zero. I'm not taking credit. But I appreciate that, Angela. I thought it was important that all of you knew about that, because I know many of you, at least Jason Jorkowski's disappearance, and in maybe getting to know that disappearance, you've probably run across Sam Sherman and his disappearance. And now you know. So I just wanted all of you. I saw it, Eileen. I saw it, Zebra. I saw Eileen's right after you, Zebra and Eileen. I certainly saw it. I did not miss that, Zebra. And I thank all of you. You're very kind to be contributing to the program. As all of you know, we don't do ads on the program. And that's always the way it's going to be for a lot of different reasons. So we don't make any ad money. We do make a little ad money, I'll admit, on YouTube. We do. Some of the videos have been a little popular, and that does generate some revenue. We have Patreon, etc. So if you can contribute to the program in your own way, I deeply appreciate it. Thank you. Angela says Sam Shepard was an astronaut. Angela, in fact, he was one of the original Mercury. If you watch like The Right Stuff, of course, I think of the old one from like 1981. I know they've done a new one that I haven't seen, but Sam Shepard, yes, he was one of the original astronauts. It was like with John Glenn and or no, not Sam Shepard. Alan Shepard is who you're thinking of. Sam Shepard is an actor, and he was in the coincidentally though, he was in The Right Stuff, and he played Chuck Yeager. Alan Shepard is the astronaut, Angela. Sam Shepard is an actor. He's also a very well-known playwright who wrote, among other things, a very popular play called True West. Angela says, I give up. Me too, Angela. Me too. Yes, Sam Shepard, he just died within the last couple years. But if you watch the movie The Right Stuff, he plays Chuck Yeager in the Right Stuff. From what else was he in? Can't think of other things that he is in. Most people know him as an actor, but he's a prolific playwright and very, very well regarded. Very well regarded. Sam Shepard. Yeah, tall guy, dark hair, kind of skinny. That was Sam Shepard. Okay. Let's move on to this. Being that this is, I can't avoid at least mentioning this for a few moments. Being that this is the day before Thanksgiving, we have to remember this was the night on which Tom Brown disappeared. Not this exact date. I think he disappeared on the 26th. So that would the day before Thanksgiving in 2016 was the 26th, not the 25th. But it's so, at least by regular, not by the date, by the weeks, it's been 4 years tonight since Tom Brown disappeared. I think, in so much, we know how much in the group and elsewhere gets talked about Tom's case, and I haven't really been talking about it because, just to be frank with you, I haven't listened to that program that's been out there. My assistants tell me about it, but I just don't have the time to listen to it. I've got all these other things to do. But it's amazing in all of that. It seems what is forgotten his disappearance is that he did disappear the night before Thanksgiving. Whether that is noteworthy or not, I don't know. But we have to remember that he did disappear on a Wednesday night, but it was the night before Thanksgiving. And so I'm sure that he had plans with his family. Of course, he didn't make it. And we know that his remains were found in early 2019. But so 4 years ago, Tom Brown disappeared. Kathy, this is also the night I had my daughter 33 years ago, Kathy. So what you're saying is 33 years ago, you might have been doing a little, had been in a little bit of pain. I don't know if you tried the natural method or did you take all the drugs like I think I would do if I were, of course I'm a guy, but if I was a woman, was going to have a child, I think I'd just be like, give me all the drugs. Just give me all the pain medication. Just give it all to me. Just give it all to me. So, but some women are going to tough it out, and I respect every one of them. Okay. So that's what you're saying, Kathy. But so 33 years ago, did Did you celebrate, Kathy? Did you get your daughter anything? I guess she's 33 years old. Did you do anything special for her? Maybe inquiring minds want to know, Kathy. Kathy says, very quick, induced, 4 hours fast. Good for you, Kathy. I think that's the way I would have it too. All right. Next question comes from Elena. She asked me, and maybe she's bringing this up because maybe she knows this, but I'll get into that in a second. She asked, do you have to be physically fit to play disc golf? Not really. And thank you, Angela. Thank you for another contribution on the super chat tonight. Thank you, Angela, very much. Kristen says, I asked for drugs when giving birth, and my doctor told me I sounded like someone from his old neighborhood. That's funny. That's a good one, Kristen. As far as being physically fit to play disc golf, if you're going to be a professional, then of course the answer is yes. But I think, Elena, if you, and I know that you are not in the United States, I know you're in another country, but if you were to go to a place, a disc golf course, just any day of the week, I think that you would find that most people playing as amateurs are not necessarily physically fit. See a lot of guys with, that probably could lose a couple pounds. It is a sport for everyone. And it's interesting how things are going to play out, because for the first time ever last night on ESPN2 in prime time, 8 Eastern to 10 Eastern, they replayed the Disc Golf Tour Championship that took place about 3 weeks ago. They had gone there. They had their cameras. They filmed it. They videoed it. They got a couple of the disc golf announcers to do the commentary. And I DVR'd it and watched it because I had a call at 8 o'clock last night, but I watched it afterwards. It was really well done. And that is the first time disc golf has ever been on ESPN at all since disc golf started in the 1970s. So it was a big deal last night. I think it came across very well. I think it was filmed pretty good. I think there's still improvements that can be made to make it a little more viewer friendly on TV. But for people who are not hardcore like I am, because you have to try to appeal to that casual viewer. But to be physically fit, not really, Elena. It certainly doesn't hurt. If you're, I know guys that are out there in their 70s playing in tournaments, but in Florida it can get hot, so they have to pick their places. They maybe only stick to playing maybe November through April or something, but it certainly helps. It's not a prerequisite. It's certainly not like swimming. It's certainly not like basketball or anything, but probably you have to be a little more physically fit than just playing ball golf, because for ball golf, you just stand to hit everything. Whereas in disc golf, there's a run up. The terrain is a little bit more hilly. So it may help a little bit, but it's not a prerequisite. Eileen says, we watched that. You watched the disc golf in California. Great. You watched it on ESPN. Thank you. Great. I'm glad to hear it. I'm just wondering how many people did watch it. But great. I'm glad you caught it, Eileen. Yes, they filmed that in North Carolina at a very, very difficult course. Very difficult. Very wooded, very tight. I'm glad I don't have to play it. Suzanne, thank you for your contribution, and happy Thanksgiving to you through Super Chat contribution. Thank you very much. Ruth is asking me, there's these guys who started out cleaning up bodies of water and they started finding cars. Yes, people were in them. I think the YouTube channel is Searching with a Purpose. I'm very familiar with them, Ruth. Yeah. Yep, that's true. They do exist. Certainly been helpful. No doubt about it. It seems to me it's still very hit and miss regarding just picking random bodies of water and hoping to find missing people in them and everything. But they certainly have made their contribution. So I'm glad they're doing it. Kathy, Angela, my first child and my son took 36 hours. Wow. Suzanne, disc golf is very popular here in my very small town. Yes, Ruth, I hope Ed would interview them. Adventures with a Purpose. Maybe. Might not make that happen. Ryan, might be too mainstream a case, but any thoughts on the disappearance of Brian Chafer? Ryan, I've talked about that before. I do know somebody who is working on it and has been working on it for a while. I really don't know if I can offer up many thoughts on his disappearance. I think it's still very, very up in the air. I think even all these years later, I think there's a lot of different possibilities. Foul play, ran off and started a new life. I'm open. I'm very open-minded. I don't think I've really decided on it, to tell you the truth. The big question continues for me. Is him not being seen leaving the ugly tuna on video part of the disappearance, or is that just a coincidence? I think that if people had a better handle on that, I think we might be able to narrow down the choices. But even all these years later, nobody really knows. Just don't know. Ruth, that's them. They were just here looking for Suzanne Morphew, right? Jasmine says they have found about 6 or more people. Yep. Yeah. That's all right, Ruth. So, Elena, I hope that answers your question. Next thing I want to talk about, just to remind all of you, there's an update episode coming. Update episode number 7. That's the last Friday. That's going to be Christmas Day. So that's my gift to all of you. The update episode. I don't really start putting those update episodes together until they're just about due. So I'm not even sure what I know. Some of the cases certainly we'll be covering. Certainly Erik Franks. You can guarantee, of course, that one's going to be on there, given that his car was found. And I'm sure there will be several others that I will be talking about. So I think somebody up here, though, asked me about Dow Phillips. Hold on here. Who was that night? Annie. That just occurred to me that somebody asked that. Yeah, fishing. Any update on Dow Phillips? No. There's just not. I've not talked to Missy recently. The last thing that I said about Dow was a few months ago, is there was this rumor out there that he had showed up at some other person's funeral a few years ago, and we cannot corroborate that at all. It's really weird. I say this every time Dow's name comes up, but it is amazing for a disappearance that you wouldn't think would have a lot of controversy around it. There's been a lot of rumors and controversy, and I've gotten some hate mail. You just wouldn't think that, but it's happened. There's other disappearances where you kind of expect it and you don't get anything. Nothing like that happens. And then there's something like Dow Phillips where, a man disappears in Helenwood, Tennessee, and you can't really believe that his wife had anything to do with it or anything else. And then all of a sudden, all these people coming out of the woodwork, hurling allegations at each other. I don't know. But no updates on it other than some work we did on it earlier this year. That's all I have. But yeah, the update episode, we'll just see how many cases I'll be talking about. Probably, given that the Sam Sherman information, I'll probably include that in a Jason Jorkowski update. That'll probably get included just because of that. But I'm sure there'll be quite a few, and it'll probably run a couple hours, but that will be a month from now. Kristen says, any news on the man, never can remember his name, who was found in his truck that went off the side? That's Ronald McNutt, Kristen. And no, still haven't done DNA, any testing on him in California. No update. I think his daughter Leslie, who was the guest for that episode, who I I'm friends with on Facebook. I see her post pictures, etc., and comment on some of them once in a while. No, nothing. It's shameful. It's absolutely shameful. So I think it makes sense that it's Ronald in his own truck that was found there, but there's no scientific proof yet. Kristen says that's crazy. I agree. I'm going to answer another question. Then I want to go into a news item that I think probably I'm going to turn into an Unfound now, but I will at least talk about it a little bit here just to, because maybe some of you have seen that in this disappearance in the news. Heather asked me, who is the camel? And for maybe some of you don't know what that means, is every Wednesday when I post a link to this show that everybody can click on and start watching when it comes on at 9 p.m. Eastern, I always make a comment about the camel. And I always come up, with something that sometimes is funny. The camel got started, Heather and anybody else. The camel got started because this show always takes place on Wednesdays. And what are Wednesdays? No, they're known as hump day, getting over the hump day, headed toward Thursday and Friday. And there is a commercial, a Geico commercial, or Broadcast, Geico. Yeah, Geico, of this camel going. The first one that I remember is him walking through an office with cubicles and asking everybody that's working there, hey, what day is it? Do you know what day it is? What day is it? What day is it? And it's being with Geico will make you happier than a camel on Wednesday. And somehow that just caught on somewhere. I think it's been over a year now, but it kind of I think that it was one of the listeners, D, and maybe me, and I don't know how it all got started, but it just started being this thing where on Wednesdays, I just started this writing about a camel on Wednesday. And now, so when I released the link for this live show, I kind of pretend like I have a camel. And I always come up, the camel is doing this, the camel is doing that. Like last week, I think I said, the camel has a lot of turkey friends, so he's going to be very conflicted next Thursday. Just stuff like that. Stuff that is topical, some stuff that's going on in the news. And the camel is somehow, taking an interest in it or is reacting to it. That's what the camel is. That's what the camel is. Just kind of naturally happened. And you will see that a couple different people, D being one of them, I think another woman's name is Gail, on Wednesdays will post pictures of a camel with some comment, and I think it's funny as heck. Lou says, Ed, yes, Ed, what day is it? What day is it? Yes, that's where the camel comes from. And I can understand some people, this is a missing persons program and the episodes are so serious. Why is this guy posting about a camel? That's why, because the live shows are on Wednesdays. And I get to, for one day of the week, I get to pretend that I own or have a camel as a friend. And I think, of course, with the elections that happened a few weeks ago, I think I made some comment regarding how the camel reacted to all of it. And I don't even remember let me see. What did I post earlier today regarding, let me see here. I know that D posted, what day is before Thanksgiving? Unfound Live Day, and there's the camel standing in the cubicle. I love it. Thank you, D. And what did I post? Where is it? The camel has been starving himself since Saturday. I hope there's enough food. That's what I posted today for the camel. So a little bit, it was me, Ed, it was me picking on you. Well, I allow the listeners to pick on me. I allow it. Ruth says, looking for the missing can be dangerous. When they looked for Suzanne Morphew and recently found Natalie Jones, they said they were being watched. They had to leave Colorado early. I don't know what to make of that, Ruth. I would have to, being watched by who or whom? Yeah, by whom? Being watched by whom? It would be my question, Ruth. I'm not sure what to make of that. I think that I think it makes sense that if you're in diving gear and going into lakes and rivers, probably people, if they do see it, are going to watch. So I'm not sure what to make of that, Ruth. That's where the camel comes from. So the news item that I want to cover, and then we will get to the disappearance for this Friday. I want to talk about the disappearance of Alan White in Dallas. He disappeared on October 22nd, 2020. He went to the gym, like I guess he usually did on October 2nd, very early in the morning. He got there at 5 a.m. And he's a professional in some, I didn't write down the company, but a company I think that we've all heard of, educated. And at the time of his disappearance, he was driving a Porsche, like a Porsche SUV as a rental, which means probably he actually does own a Porsche, and that one was in the shop. And because we know a lot of these high-end car dealers, if you have a Mercedes, you're getting it worked on, they'll give you another Mercedes to drive while your car is getting worked on. So I'm taking for granted that Alan had some other kind of fancy, higher end vehicle, certainly not a Hyundai like I do, or Hyundai like I do. So he's well off, professional businessman. And he went to the gym, I guess, as he usually did at 5 a.m. And he left the gym at 5:38. So I guess he got in a fairly quick workout. And then he was seen on video at a racetrack, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a gas station convenience store chain. We have some here in Florida as well. If you were like in Pennsylvania, it's like a Sheetz. And then after that, he's seen talking on his phone, but he was at this gas station at 6 a.m. And this gas station is right down the road from his house, like a mile. And he was supposed to be coming home because he was going to be having a conference call, and a call he could take from home at 7 a.m. So he had an hour to get from this gas station home, maybe since his video, maybe he's going to take a shower, etc. Never made it home, has not been seen since. But his car, this SUV, higher end, rented, or not really rented, it was a loaner car from the dealership, was found 10 miles in the opposite direction from his house in what I've been told is not the best part of town. Now, Alan is married. He was gay, and his husband, whose name was Rusty, as soon as Alan did not get home in time for this conference call, Alan, or his husband Rusty, went out to look for him, thought that maybe Alan broke down or something, could not find him. And by 11 a.m. that morning, Rusty had gone in and filed out a missing persons report. And like I said, eventually this Porsche was found in working condition. It didn't look like there was any violence inside of it. It didn't have its rims or radio or anything. It wasn't damaged in any way. Was found in a unsavory part of Dallas, 10 miles away from where he was last seen. I didn't write down here whether the keys were found or whether it was locked, but I did read that for some reason the seats were wet, even though the windows were up on it. So I don't know if somebody wiped them off. Now, of course, in a Porsche, those seats are going to be leather. So I don't know what to make of that. But so this is still a missing persons case. October 22nd. Today is November 25th, and they still don't have any clues as to what happened to him. I think the biggest probably issue is that there he was at 6 a.m. at this gas station. I guess he got gas or something, but he's on his phone at 6 a.m. And it doesn't seem like he was on his phone with his husband, Rusty. And nobody since then, at least anything that I could find, and I went through many pages of Web Sleuths and elsewhere to find out if, things maybe that aren't in the news. And I haven't heard where anybody has ever come forward to say, yes, I spoke to Alan that morning that he disappeared. No friends or family have ever come forward to say that, or even coworkers, maybe he has employees, maybe he has supervisors above him. To my knowledge, nobody's ever come forward to say that they spoke to him that morning. Some people are pointing out that, who gets up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the gym to only work out, because he got to the gym at 5, which means he probably didn't start his workout till 10 after 5, whatever he was doing. And then he's leaving the gym at 5:38. I mean, like you get up at 4:30 in the morning for a 20-minute workout. Some people have pointed that out. But I think that I'm going to be doing a more expansive show on this, a program on this for Unfound Now, probably this weekend while I am over there in DeBerry. But it is a disappearance that caught my eye. I'm not sure what to think right at this second, but I will probably express some more in-depth views on the Unfound Now that I intend to do on this. As you would expect, some people are maybe a little suspicious of his husband, Rusty. And I should say, this just shows you how big a difference a gender or sexual orientation can be. I think that if Alan was a woman and she was supposed to be home at a certain time, and then her husband says, no, she never got home, and then the car is found 10 miles away, I think a lot of people would be suspicious of that woman's husband. I think. But given that this is a homosexual relationship, a gay marriage, that it doesn't seem at this point that people are suspicious of Alan's husband at all, which, once again, I think this would be different in a heterosexual one if Alan was a woman. So I'm sure I'll touch upon that topic in the Unfound Now, but just wanted to alert all of you to that. Maybe you've already seen it, but this is a disappearance that's about a month old, and I think it's one that I would like to cover for an Unfound Now, because I think that there are issues that the public can be taught from analyzing a disappearance like this. Hello, Satin B. Good to see you. Kristen, do you think the Granger Taylor case would be too mainstream for you to do? Kristen, I have to admit, I don't even know what Granger Taylor is. So maybe you need to explain that a little bit to me. Being that I don't know about it probably tells me it's not too mainstream, which means it might be a good candidate, but I would certainly have to know more. It just doesn't ring a bell off the top of my head. Suzanne says, wonder if he just met someone at the gym. Hopefully police can get his cell phone records. Well, I'm sure, I'm guessing they have. It seems like police have taken this very seriously, Suzanne. But I do have to say, and it's on, as you would imagine, that you can see some of the comments in a variety of places that there is the thinking out there. There's no proof of this to my knowledge. There is the thinking out there that maybe Alan was meeting somebody, that he had plans to meet somebody and then go home, and something happened. Given that I think it's a combination of him only spending like 20 minutes at the gym, but maybe that's his workout. I don't know. When I go to the gym, I'm usually there for more than 20 minutes, and then him talking on the phone to somebody at 6 a.m. and what kind of people do you talk to at 6 a.m. on the phone? And none of those people, at least to our knowledge, have ever come forward to say, yeah, I was the person talking to him. It certainly does push people in a certain direction. That could mean that maybe he was meeting somebody and something happened. It certainly wasn't a carjacking, because the Porsche ended up being found and nothing was wrong with it. So it certainly wasn't that. But I will cover it, like I said, in more in depth this coming weekend. All right. Let's move on to this Friday's disappearance. It is the disappearance of Caleb Joseph Powell. Now, I want to warn you already, there is another Caleb Powell disappearance out there on NamUs and on the Charlie Project. That is Caleb Andrew Powell, who disappeared in California in 2019. The disappearance we will be covering this Friday is Caleb Joseph Powell, Powell, from Phoenix, Arizona on March 17th. Yes, St. Patrick's Day, 2014. His mother, Lori, will be the guest. And the title of this episode, maybe you shouldn't be surprised by this, is called A St. Patrick's Day Disappearance. What happened here is that Caleb, he had been in jail for 5 years, but he got out in 2013 and was living a pretty straight life. I've checked his criminal records, except for a couple traffic citations after he got out of jail. Nothing. That's been it. And he was had a job. He was living in his own place. Seemed to be doing decent for himself, living, trying to be a law-abiding citizen. But on St. Patrick's Day of 2014, he was up at his father's place, which is up in Surprise, which is like his northwest of Phoenix. He was up there with a friend of his and a coworker whose name was Kevin Banta. And Caleb offered to drive Kevin home. And Kevin lived in South Phoenix, which is like a 40-minute drive. I know these areas. I've been to Surprise, Arizona. I've been all over Phoenix. Back when I lived in Las Vegas, I had a job that took me down there. Well, Kevin got dropped off, but Caleb never returned. And a couple days later, his vehicle was found on the side of the road near a casino on Native American land down there. It was called the V Kiva Hotel and Casino in South Phoenix. Like I said, Lori is his mother. It's one of those cases where we don't have a lot of information. You're going to hear that although Caleb have a cell phone, we don't know what that cell phone information says. I will tell you that my assistant Cherie has tried to contact both Kevin, his sister, who Caleb was allegedly dating, and Kevin's father, who was Caleb's boss. None of them ever got back to Cherie in her multiple attempts to contact them, to talk to them about Caleb's disappearance. You will see if you go to the Charlie Project that the write-up is fairly long, but I think once you read it, you'll determine not a lot of information out there. And I think that's probably what you'll get from the interview as well. There's a lot of missing pieces in this disappearance. And I think it's because Caleb was a felon, and he's a 24-year-old young man. And the fact is that a missing person, even though his mother attempted to file a missing persons report after he disappeared, the police refused to take a report for a year and a half. So those are all factors, I think, in this disappearance and why it is still unsolved in 2020. But that is this Friday. Caleb Joseph Powell from Phoenix, Arizona, March 17th, 2014. His mother, Lori, will be the guest. And the title of it is A St. Patrick's Day Disappearance. Let's see what some of you are saying. A little bit. Did the sister of the guy from Davis, Oklahoma that went missing get a hold of you? A little bit. You're going to have to tell me the actual name of the person who went missing. That might be a little helpful. I will tell you, I've spoken to some new people for the first time within the last few days, but I don't think any of them had anything to do with Davis, Oklahoma. One is Georgia, and another Texas disappearance, but nothing from Oklahoma that think a little bit. If you tell me the name, maybe I might be able to tell you. Kristen, can I email you all the info that I have? He went missing in 1975, but I thought it was a hugely well-known missing persons case. My ignorance, since I find it is so interesting and mysterious. If it's a missing persons case, we'll take a look at it, Kristen. You know, being a disappearance that's 45 years old, I'm hoping there are some people who are still alive. I hope Granger has siblings who are still around that knew what was going on at the time. I would also say that I'm hoping that Granger is, my thing about covering children's disappearances. We're trying to stay away from those. So I'm hoping Granger is at least in his late teens. Let's put it that way. I'm hoping. So if you want to do that, Kristen, you want to send me info? Absolutely. Unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. And I will take a look at anything you show me or send to me. So that's about it. Got a tourney this weekend in DeBerry, Florida. Doesn't seem like Mandy was in here. I know she's from DeBerry, so she missed me talking about her town. Thanksgiving at my brother's tomorrow. Got a couple new tires on the car. The other back tires were shot. There was still tread on them, but they're just worn out. They had cracks in them. Talked about the Gayla Schaper poll. Talked about how Sam Sherman has been found alive by a listener. Newsletter next Tuesday. The 4-year anniversary of Tom Brown's disappearance. Update episode number 7 coming out on Christmas Day in December. Talk to you about this disappearance in the news, the disappearance of Alan White in Dallas. He's been missing for over a month. And this Friday, the disappearance of Caleb Powell from Phoenix, Arizona on March 17th, 2014. And I took a bunch of questions tonight, which always makes me happy. And a little bit says, I PM'd you a while back about it. I will have to look into that a little bit. I will. I'm sorry that I don't remember. I apologize. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Go ahead, eat as much as you want. I mean, none of us gets out of here alive. We are on this earth for a very, very short time. Just partake. The turkey, the ham, the stuffing, the pumpkin pie, the mashed potatoes, whatever you're into, just eat it. It's okay. It's okay. Good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Cannot thank you all enough. And once again, remember to like this video before you leave. Good night.